All right, everyone, welcome back to the Wilkes-Barre Connect podcast. Today's guest is Don Webster, who is the executive director of the tecBRIDGE program. Don, welcome to the podcast today.
Hey, Dan. Good morning. How are you doing?
Hanging in there. So, Don, I want to start a little bit with who you are. I think you're, as I just said to you earlier, you're a name that a lot of people hear in the entrepreneur space, and they don't really know who Don Webster is. So, before we jump into everything else, a little bit about your background and sort of how you got started with all this.
Sure. So first of all, I'm not a native. Maybe my kids might be, but we relocated here a long time ago, back in 1995, as part of the largest corporate relocation in the U.S. with NatWest.
Okay. All right.
And I was responsible for the facility at Montage Mountain. So it's a 300,000 square foot facility. We were going to have 3,000 people. And 3 weeks after my family moved here, they announced the sale of the bank in the UK.
Oh,
And
okay.
so that became a journey. I had done mergers and acquisitions for the bank. And so now we were on the other side. And we really tried to emphasize all of the good things about Northeast PA, why NatWest was coming here in the first place. And Fleet ended up buying our organization, and they were very kind. They asked us to relocate, and we said, no, thanks. And so as a result of that, our family decided to stay in Northeast PA. And I've had the opportunity to create several companies. And along the way, I had a chance to be part of the Great Valley Technology Alliance, which was this regional collaboration. And along the way, they needed some help. And along the way, I agreed to be the executive director. And that's where we find ourselves today. So how about that?
All right. I did not know that story. I knew that you weren't a native, but I did not know that you were one of the transplants who sort of got stuck in a region right after a job starts.
By choice.
Yes. That's amazing. And so how long ago was that then, Don?
So we moved here in 95.
95.
So
and 30 plus years. So as someone who legitimately came from the outside in and chose to stay here, can you talk about sort of the entrepreneurial shift that you've seen over those 30 plus years, looking at where we stand today in the Northeast Pennsylvania region, where there's tons of manufacturing and technology jobs and these things that are startups that are doing well, but 40 years ago, what did you see in the 90s that made you go, this may be the place?
So it's kind of interesting. So I'm that guy whose glass overflows. And the way that I often articulate it is, so I'm someone who came to this region and saw it for what it can be. Others, maybe like you, grew up here and know it for what it's been. And so there are goods and bads with both. But one of the things that caused NatWest to come to Northeast Pennsylvania after doing this national search was its potential and its possibilities. So look, we have 16 colleges and universities within an hour's drive of Montage Mountain. We have what can be very competitive affordability, and we had at the time space. So it was a very attractive opportunity for us. I think a lot of those things still are the same today. I mean, Northeast Pennsylvania is a place where you can actually connect if you choose to, whether that's in your community or as part of a business. And so possibilities, if you choose to see them, they exist here. And so I think that's the spirit of what's been consistent since I've moved here 30 years ago.
Okay. And I appreciate that. And I'm a transplant as well. So that's why it's interesting that I, as a more recent transplant, assumed the way you speak of the region and talk about the region that you were born and raised here. And so it's interesting to hear that sort of you saw the possibility of what Northeast Pennsylvania could be and still see those possibilities in what exists in the region today. So.
Right. I wasn't here before the arena. I wasn't here before Steamtown Mall. A lot of people in the region know what it's been. And at times, this region, people say, well, we can't do that here. I'm the opposite. I'm like, why not? Let's go. Yeah. Like, there's so much possibility. You are your own challenge. You are your own opportunity. Let's aspire. Let's go.
And I think that's really interesting because I hear that a lot. Even when I first moved here and teaching, there was always the talk of, well, don't expect too much, or there's the limitations of the region, or, well, we've always done it this way. We're a coal region. And so it's always interesting to see people when they talk about Northeast Pennsylvania, talk about technology and not talk about coal specifically. Well, yes, both technology given their eras, but that there are those who are looking forward to say, well, yes, we did those things in the past and we've been through some rocky areas, but we've learned and here's how we're turning the page and here's how we're building on those things from the past.
Yeah, and that's not to say that we don't have our challenges. I mean, every
Mm-hmm.
place has its challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the grass is greener on the other side, right? All I'm suggesting is there is infrastructure here. There are funding programs here. If
Mm-hmm.
you are someone that aspires, whether you're entrepreneurial or intrapreneurial or just want to take care of your family, that possibility exists here. And sometimes it's the attitude that precludes us from finding those possibilities. And
Mm-hmm.
so I start with attitude, like, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go find it. Let's go do it. Let's see what
Yeah.
happens.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So switching then, talk to me a little bit about tecBRIDGE then and how that aspirational nature that you sort of look at the region with, how does that translate into tecBRIDGE and what its
Sure.
foundations are?
So tecBRIDGE originally was the Great Valley Technology Alliance. It was brought together by the Wilkes-Barre and Scranton Chamber leadership, along
Mm-hmm.
with some others from Hazleton and the Scranton family. And interestingly enough, these big thinkers came together before the internet. Let's put this in context. And
Okay.
what they actually, what I spoke with one of them one day, and I said, "What was the problem you were trying to solve?" And Bill Scranton said to me, "No, no, no. It was actually about the opportunity that we saw with." We had historically been this place where we were physical asset intensive. And
Mm-hmm.
here there was this new thing called the internet that was in its very early stages. And it represented an opportunity for us to actually leverage our knowledge to compete on our knowledge. And that was a space that our leaders felt we could compete with anyone on.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have to be about physical assets or physical capital. It could be about creativity and possibility. And boy, were they right. Like, I don't know that they understood the potential of the internet, but they saw something. And as a result of what they saw, we started down this path of creating more regional conversation.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, the running joke was you had to pack a lunch to go between Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, right? Those barriers are all gone now. But what's still here is all the colleges and universities,
Mm-hmm.
and the banks and the businesses who kind of collaborate around possibility and aspiration. So tecBRIDGE is a regional economic development organization. We complement what's going on, for example, with the chambers,
Mm-hmm.
because they are very geographic in their base, but our voice goes across, if you will, and we actually are an organization that looks to bring people together and connect. So we do a lot of things that associate with high school students, with college students, with early stage startups. We're big on dreams. We're big on let's go see what we can do together, and that's kind of who we are. Our target customer, if you will, Dan, is those who
Mm-hmm.
aspire. And I only say that because we can't serve every high school student. We can't serve
Yeah.
every college student. We can't serve every business. But if you really want to go, we can help connect. We're a connector organization. We help create possibilities.
Yeah. I appreciate that. And I like the notion that you can't help everyone, but if you aspire and you're willing to sort of try, that you're willing to step in and at least help them get started and sort of move the needle forward and see what's there.
Yeah, and that's not meant to be harsh. It's just meant to
Mm-mm.
be like when we're teaching entrepreneurship, you got to figure out who your target market is. If you're going to be able to be successful, you got to figure out who's got the need. And the
Yeah.
need for us is those who are doing stuff. If you're not doing stuff, we're probably not the right organization for you.
Mm-hmm. No, I get that. I appreciate that. So can you talk about then some of the programs and initiatives that tecBRIDGE has that people may recognize throughout the region?
Sure. So probably the one that tecBRIDGE is most well known for is this is the 24th year of the business plan competition.
Mm-hmm.
That makes it one of the 10 oldest continuous business plan competitions in the nation.
Wow.
Um, We've had tremendous success. Interesting story is we have had a team that has gone on to Shark Tank.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we have had high school students that wanted to participate, and ultimately we recognized that we needed our own high school competition, so we created a new one just for the high school division.
Mm-hmm.
So the business plan competition has a high school division, it has a collegiate division, and it has a non-collegiate division. That's probably what we're known best for in the region, but we also do quite a bit of work with students.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do a lot as it relates to conferences. We do a summer innovation conference that really was focused on why don't we talk about innovation in Northeast PA? There's so much going on here. There's so much going on in our backyard that a lot of people don't know about. Let's
Uh-huh.
showcase
Uh-huh.
that. And then we sort of do some other things for students, particularly high school students. I have a great passion for unleashing those dragons, and so we do a lot there. We do summer internships. We have some credentials. We do a conference. I would say that's the most that we're known for. If you're in the
Yeah.
entrepreneurial community, we also administer the Keystone Innovation Zone Program, which has
Mm-hmm.
brought over $30 million to Northeast PA for early stage
Wow.
companies since its inception in 2004. So that's a real program with real dollars for real entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
But the one we're probably most known for is the business plan competition.
No, that's amazing. And I love that you said those are real dollars for the region. People think about Northeast Pennsylvania and they think coal, they think anthracite, they think backwards, and they don't realize that innovation is happening here on a regular basis. And that if there's $30 million that are coming in just for technology and innovation, that means that there's other money coming in. I work with arts programs. I know that there's money being generated from art that's coming in the region. Working with different chambers, you talk about workforce development, that you know that these programs are there. Why is there a stigma? You say so many aspirational things, and the notion that you used to need a lunch to go between the cities. That mentality is still here, though. And like I hear from you that it's not, and that's in the past, but reality, boots on the ground, there's still division and there's still skepticism. Why do you think that exists?
Well, I think what's interesting about our community, and I don't know if this is true about all communities. I sort of think it might be, but in our community, it seems like it's really easy to say that doesn't exist here, or I can't
Mm-hmm.
find that here, or it doesn't work that way here, or it's too hard. That it's too easy to say we can't do it here.
Right.
And that seems to be an attitude that uh, that we need to challenge more. And so
Mm-hmm.
our tagline is why not us? Why not here? Why not now? That's who we are. And so one of the things that's interesting to me is I don't think that we have done enough to make sure that our up and coming future workforce really understands all the potential here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many of our high school students are really on our college campuses seeing what's cool about each of our college campuses? Because they do some very cool things. Uh, and how many of our high school students understand that there are world class businesses in Northeast PA?
Mm-hmm.
How many of our college students know that there are places that you can go to start businesses and people like yourself who can help them get where they need to go through a chamber relationship? The infrastructure in Northeast PA for startups is pretty amazing.
Yes. Yes,
Um,
it is.
and it's just a matter of giving people the opportunity and in some cases challenging them. Go find someone from your village that's like
Mm-hmm.
you. There are actually quite a few people like you here. You just have to go find them. Um, and so I think that's one of our biggest challenges in the region is just creating that awareness of the possibilities that there are people like you, whether that's the way you think or the way you act or the way you are. It does exist here. Some cases you have to go find it, but that's what, Wilkes-Barre Connect does.
Yeah.
Help people figure that out.
And that is the hope. That is the hope, is that we're making those connections. And I appreciate that almost as a sidebar, because that's a great nugget of there are other people like you that are here. And it's interesting. When I first moved here, I was in educational space and taught for 10 years and felt very siloed that there wasn't much else in Northeast Pennsylvania. And it was when I stopped teaching, and not that teaching was a barrier, but when I sort of opened my eyes and looked at other opportunities, I found an entirely different life that existed entrepreneurially in the region. It was like, oh, there is more to this region. There's a lot more that's here. And it's been great because now when I'm back on campus, when I'm talking to students, it was always talking about the work that I did in Philadelphia, the work that I did in New York, the work that I did in LA. And now it's like, no, I'm talking about when I was in Scranton working with this company, or the manufacturer that's down the street in Hazleton that does this. I have a much more regional set of experiences and examples to give students of no, you can do all those things that I was doing around the country and create those videos and those stories right here in your own backyard and not have to leave your parents' basement.
Yeah, and I'm not going to suggest it's not hard.
No, yeah.
But I think we need to challenge those assumptions. We just did an event at Luzerne Community College last week. We did a panel discussion with technologists, and we did it on this emerging technology in software development. You would know it as vibe coding. And one of the panelists said, I need to meet other technologists. No, I don't know many people in this region that do what I do. And I said, well, there's a lot of people that actually do what you do. You got to get out from behind the computer and just go meet people, and you'd be surprised. And that was some of the feedback from the panel. It's like, hey, we need to do more of this. So if I were to offer one thing, Dan, it'd be like, get out from behind the desk.
Yeah.
Get out from behind the desk. Go meet somebody. Just introduce yourself. You never know where your next opportunity is going to come from.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so getting back to sort of tecBRIDGE and the partnership there, talk about the idea of the entrepreneur mindset. We just said, get from behind the desk and go meet people and do those things. What other things do entrepreneurs, not just in our region, but in general, what mindset do they need to have if they're really going to sort of take this journey and start something new from scratch and start their own process?
Okay, sure. So let me do a couple of things. First of all, not everybody is going to be an entrepreneur, but everybody could be entrepreneurial.
Okay.
So let's start with that, because sometimes we throw these terms out. A lot of times we throw tech terms out. Like, I would love for someone to actually explain what artificial intelligence is, but we all talk about it as if we know what it is, right?
Right.
So look, let's talk about entrepreneurship for a second. For me, entrepreneurship is about solving a problem.
Okay.
Let's start there, because I think a lot of times we talk about entrepreneurship as, well, we're going to go build businesses and we're going to create stuff. Well, okay, that's part of it, but entrepreneurship is about solving problems. It's not about creating Facebook. I mean, entrepreneurship is really hard, but where it starts with is that somebody has an idea that's going to solve a problem. From there, we get into the whole, okay, well, how do we go about doing this? But what the next really important piece of the puzzle is can you find someone who has a need for the problem that you're solving? In other words, if you're going to go build something, don't build it until you've confirmed that you can find people that actually want it, because that is by far the number one problem that causes businesses to fail, is that somebody built something that there wasn't a need for. It's crazy, but it's true. And the second thing that we have to talk about when it comes to entrepreneurship is, can you find people that would actually change what they're doing today and pay you for the privilege of fixing their problem and solving their need tomorrow? And so we don't talk enough about that beginning part. We talk all the time about, hey, I got a great idea. Well, there's lots of great ideas. We don't always talk about, is the great idea that you're thinking about, does it really matter? Does it really matter to a group? Who's the group that this matters to?
Right.
Like, doing this thing, who's it for? Right. Remember, tecBRIDGE says we work with those who aspire. Well, as an entrepreneur, if you're creating this thing, number one, what's the problem you're trying to solve? And two, who's the customer that's going to have the need that would be willing to change to do your thing? And by the way, when I say change, I mean pay you for your product or service. And we can't be afraid to have that conversation, because that's what creates so much failure in the entrepreneurial community, is because we don't get that base foundation right.
Right. No, I appreciate that. And I think those are two very, very good foundational ones. Is what is the problem that you're trying to solve? Because I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm good at something, so I'm going to create a business out of it.
And
And what that's great.
that's not to suggest you're not good at it. That's
Right,
not
right, right.
right. You can't build it. The question is, if just because you build it doesn't mean they will come.
Right, right.
We're not Field of Dreams here.
No, and that's amazing. And I think I see it in the educational side as well, because there are a lot of people who they say, oh, well, I'll adjunct or I'll do this on the side because I can do this professionally. And I have to tell people, slowing down and teaching someone how to do what we do and doing what we do at real speed are two very different things.
Sure.
And being able to instruct someone as to why you should be checking the tripod for this thing, even though you mentally know how to do it in the back of your head, is two very different things, because you have to remember why you learned how to do it. And so that notion of I'm good at it doesn't always translate into some other avenue or some other lane that you can go into. So I think that's great for people to hear that as well.
Right. And I think I go back to, so entrepreneurs are focused on solving problems that meet a customer need that would cause them to change their current behavior.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that we all can't be entrepreneurial, because there are attributes that entrepreneurs demonstrate, successful ones anyways, that we all can use, whether you are an educator or you're a firefighter or you're a doctor or you're a lawyer or you're a business person. Like there are different skills and competencies that entrepreneurs demonstrate, successful ones, I should say, that we can all use and leverage wherever we work or play, as an example. So that's the entrepreneurial mindset that you were talking about. That doesn't mean you have to be an entrepreneur, but you can definitely be entrepreneurial.
Gotcha. No, I appreciate that. And so moving on from there, then what challenges do those who are going to be or are successful at entrepreneurship, what are some of the challenges or hurdles that they face, and how do we prepare people to sort of move around those things?
Okay. So the number one thing that's real that comes up almost universally is access to capital.
Okay.
So the ability to underwrite your dream is really something that a lot of idea-based startups face out of the gate. Don, I don't have the money to get this where it needs to go. I don't know how to find the money. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. That's real. There are ways to address it, which we can talk about if you want. But the thing that's kind of interesting to me is, I think the one thing that we don't talk enough about, which is just as real as capital, is we as a society don't do enough in terms of self-assessment and self-awareness. Okay. And so for a lot of entrepreneurs, look, the reality is, and you know this, the reality is you are the number one salesperson for your new venture. Whether you want to be or not, you are the one that understands your new idea, your new concept the best. And sometimes I tell that to people and they're like, oh, I don't want to be the salesperson. I don't want to do that. Well, guess what? If you don't really want to tell people about your passion, you probably shouldn't do this. Because you're the first one and you're the one that knows it the most. So you can't really delegate that out of the gate. You've got to be willing to connect with people and tell them why your thing is cool and why it matters and why they should change. So there's an example of, you want to start your own venture? Okay. Are you good at telling people your story? There's an example. Yeah. Are you good with numbers? Are you good with your hands? Do you have an IT background? Are you a creative? Are you open to risk? Yeah. Right. Whether the answers are yes or no, I think one of the things that we need to do a better job of in Northeast Pennsylvania is helping people understand their strengths and their weaknesses. Yeah. Their superpowers and their kryptonite, because we all got them. Yeah. And I'll do this class in high school, and I particularly like to pick on the guys. I'm a guy. I pick on the guys because it's like, oh, you mean we have to talk about what we're good at? Everybody knows what I'm good at. Wait, we have to talk about what we're not good at? No. I'm good at everything. Yeah, no, we're not all good at everything. Right. And even being aware of what you're good at, that's what we want to leverage. And what you're less good at, we want to find others, or you need to learn that skill, or you need to find others who can help you. Because as an entrepreneur, you got to do it all. So who's going to do it?
No, and I appreciate that. And do you have any more of those examples of how we become self-aware? Because I love the notion of putting the mirror up to someone and saying, so what is it that you're not good at? And that's sort of where the record scratches of, wait, you want me to contemplate what I'm not good at? Because that is a great thing that as an entrepreneur that I've learned, because I was the one who didn't want to be the salesperson and didn't want to be on my own website and didn't want people to recognize, that I have a business. And it was like, people kept saying, but if you're not willing to sell yourself, why should anyone buy it in the first place? I was like, oh, damn.
Right.
And then it became, well, what are you not good at? It was like, oh, well, why does that matter? Oh, because those are the things I need to fill in. Like I can do X, Y, Z, but A, B, and C still need to happen. And if that's not my strength, find the pieces to fill that in. But that comes from the reflection of understanding where are your own potholes. And so what other things do you think people should be thinking about?
Right. So one, whether you are interested in starting a business or you just want to follow your own dream, whatever that is. I start with that. I talk about that in high schools all the time, because if you don't dream it, you can't do it. Right. If you want to play second base for the Yankees, I'm a Cub fan. If you want to play second base for the Yankees, let's talk about what it would take to get you to be the second baseman for the Yankees. I'm not going to tell you whether or not you can or you can't, but we can build a plan that says, here's what it's going to take. Are you willing to do what it needs to get done to compete to be the second baseman for the Yankees? Okay, well, I could use that a lot. But where I go with this, Dan, is whether you're starting a business or you're just looking to move forward in life, who are your trusted voices?
Yeah.
Who are your trusted voices? And are you willing to have conversations with your trusted voices? This isn't a male thing or a female thing. Guys really suck at this. Are you willing to open yourself up to a conversation where you ask people for input that will help you move forward? And so some of that is, hey, I'm thinking of starting a business. And you don't have to tell them what the business is. But I'm thinking of starting a business, and what do you think I would be good at in that business? Like, ask that question. You don't have to ask what you're not good at. They'll tell you.
Right.
They'll tell you. And in fact, when we do this with the high schools, I did this, we talked about strengths, and one of the high school students raised their hand and said, oh, I'll tell you about my friend's strengths, but can I tell you about their weaknesses too? Yes, but not quite right away. So, you got to find some trusted voices. And what do I mean by a trusted voice, Dan? A trusted voice, if you have like an advisory board, but a trusted voice is someone that just wants you to be the best version of yourself. They don't want anything from you other than what's best for you, right? That's a really important thing. Like people talk about advisory boards and it's like, okay, well, I need to get paid. Okay, well, if someone's saying you need to get paid and they're not willing to just help you because they want to help you, probably not a good sign out of the gate. Now, if they're really going to help you, well, then, you need to be able to say thank you and take care of those who take care of you. We could talk about that. But for what we really need is trusted voices. Who's going to call you on your stuff?
Yeah.
Who's going to say, hey, can we take a breath there and really think about that? Hey, can you really do this right now with the 65 other things you got on right now? And oh, by the way, your biggest investor is probably your family. And I'm not talking capital. We talk to our family about, hey, I want to try this thing and it means I'm going to have to do all this stuff. And so can you find those trusted voices, Dan, that you can have a conversation with about, hey, I'm thinking of trying a thing. What do you think I could be good at there? And what do they say? Hey, what do you think I should be concerned about? That's called data. Now, people they're not going to be hurtful, especially if you have the right people. But are you willing to open yourself up to that kind of conversation? And we in Northeast Pennsylvania need to get better at that.
I agree. And I think as a transplant, I think that is one thing that not from an individual, yes, as individual businesses, but from looking at regions and talking to people about ideas in general, that is one of those things that has always been a hiccup of that self-reflection of that's a great idea, but what does the actual process look like? And are we dedicated to doing it? Because I see a lot of groups or people who want to start things and they're really great out the gate. And it's like, right, but what's the sustainability of that look like? What is 10 years from now? Does that look like?
There's a great book called The Mom Test. And the philosophy of the mom test is your mom's going to tell you yes, just because she's your mom. Right. You got to find people that will help you get where you need to go. by having honest and open conversations.
Yeah.
And that's a
Yeah.
great place to start. If you've got an idea, you need to be able to test it to figure out how to go forward so that you can figure out if you want to find the capital to do the thing, right? So
Right. Right.
everybody
Right.
says it's capital. The first thing you need to do is you need to find people that really want the thing that you're trying to, want the thing for the problem you're trying to solve.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It reminds me, I remember I had a student years ago who, when talking about career ideas, the original joke was always she wanted to be Snooki, but really she wanted to be a TV personality. And I was like, all right, so that's great. I can work with TV personality if you stop saying Snooki. And I was like, go find Ryan Seacrest's resume and Wikipedia page and look at what it took before Ryan Seacrest was on American Idol and look at everything that Ryan Seacrest did. And she came back and she was like, when did he sleep? That man has worked nonstop. I go, great. Now you understand what it takes to accidentally be discovered on American Idol. So if you want to be a personality, I can work with that, but here's now our blueprint. Here's all the places you need to be and all the things that you need to do. And she went on and she's doing great. But it was one of those, we had to break it down and look at the reality of, if you say this is your goal, I have no problem with that. Whether or not you can do it is up to you. But let's look at the reality of what it takes to build, to become that individual, to be lucky enough to be in the position that when all of the things align, you're where you need to be. And that's one of those litmus tests that a lot of people look at and go, oh, I don't want to do all that. That's great. Now we know. And we can find something else for you to do.
Right. And the same can be said for entrepreneurship because creating something new is hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. There's so much uncertainty. That's one of the things, if you're interested in sort of creating a venture for yourself, just you have to be comfortable with uncertainty. I think that would be another one that I'd offer you. Not so much that you need to be a risk taker. You need to understand that uncertainty is a constant.
Yeah.
And that can be wearing.
Yeah.
It can be exciting and then it gets old. But I mean, you got to be willing to sort of be uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. So you can figure out where you want to go and how you want to get there. And if that's something that you're always looking over your shoulder or you're afraid of the downside, well, that's something that either you need to surround yourself with people that can help you with that or recognize it for what it is and find something that brings you joy. Because I think that's the other thing that we don't talk enough about is we need to find joy in what we're doing. Let's again, that's another word in the high schools that I have a field day with because guys don't talk about joy.
No.
But wait, we do all the time. We just don't call it that. But what brings you joy? Because if you're going to do this and you're going to spend all this time and probably be away from your loved ones working really hard to get where you need to go, and why are you doing this? Why are you doing this?
Yeah. No, and it's great. And it's one of the things that I tell students in media, I go, you have to learn to love it, but you have to be okay with hating it as well. Because there are going to be those times where like you're going to ride the high of you finished the story, you finished the package and it's out there and people are loving it and it's doing whatever, but then realize that the next one has to come out as well. And that now you're back to reporting and you're in the dark room, sitting at night, editing away from your family and friends or not out doing whatever. And you have to be okay with, I hate doing this. Right. And shrug through that as well, because the joy will be there. But the opposite of that joy is that you have to be willing to hate this as well. And if you can okay with both of those extremes, now we can move forward as well.
It's part of the process and there are gives and takes and you have to be willing to recognize that this is part of what it takes to get where you need to go and accomplish what it is that you want to see. Yeah. So maybe the final thing is, what does success look like? Mm-hmm. A lot of times we need to spend more time with those who are looking to create new things and say, okay, so if this is worth it to you, why? What's the reason? What does success look like? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't always have to be monetary.
Right.
It becomes one of the, sort of cornerstones.
But
there are other dimensions of success that, can really be motivating. If you just give yourself permission to go, hey, the reason I'm doing this is because I really want to see this get fixed.
No, yeah, I appreciate that. I can't let you go without asking the bigger question that everyone always wants to talk about. And you sort of alluded to it earlier. Let's talk capital. If I'm that early stage entrepreneur and I've got an idea and I've done a lot of the litmus tests and I've got a problem to solve, and there are people who are willing to spend money to let me solve that problem. What are some early things when it comes to capital that people should be looking for, sort of benchmarks to make sure they're at least moving in the right direction?
So I think first and foremost, what's the nature of your business? And the reason that I say that, Dan, is because there are different buckets in the Commonwealth that align with different interests. So, for example, in your field, there is a media tax credit program. So if you're really into film or whatever, you can monetize your business, and the state will help you generate capital to do that. It's just an example. But if you are, for example, in tech, there are programs in the region to incent innovation. There are. If you're interested in creating restaurants, or you're interested in creating personal services, there are different avenues to explore. They're not all the same, right?
Right.
So part of it is just looking around and seeing what chamber program exists and who are the economic development partners. And so, for example, at tecBRIDGE, we were talking about the business plan competition before. First prize is 10 grand. Yeah. Well, there's an opportunity to generate 10 grand for your business if you qualify to be. And so, so in terms of finding capital, you got to go do the work. What program is the city of Wilkes-Barre offering? What program is Luzerne County offering? What program is NEPA Alliance offering? What program is Ben Franklin offering? What program is tecBRIDGE offering? What program is Women in Philanthropy offering? So, for example, if you're a woman and you're interested in starting your venture, there are programs for women who want to start ventures. You have to go find them, and you have to figure out how to qualify, but they do exist. So you have to do your homework.
Gotcha.
I think the second piece is that you really need to understand how much do you need. And the reason I say that is because there's this myth around venture capital. And I'm not trying to be negative, but the reality is most businesses in Northeast Pennsylvania are not venture ready.
Right.
Most businesses in the U.S. are not venture ready. Right. And so, if you need a big number, you need to demonstrate results. And so you've got to figure out how to bridge from where you are to where you want to go. People just aren't going to write big checks because you've got a good idea.
Yeah.
You got to find customers. And so, so to get capital, you need to figure out how to get something out there that people can actually respond to, so that you create this concept called traction, right? So how do you get something in somebody's hands that will give you the fuel to get somebody to say yes, whether that's a bank or your family, which I don't recommend, but more importantly, the economic development entities in the region. And Wilkes-Barre Connect was built to help with that. And the chambers in the region help with that. And so it's hard, but it does exist. Most banks, if we're going to talk capital in the form of loans, require collateral.
Yeah.
Which can be a hurdle for especially younger startup entrepreneurs, because they don't have a lot of assets. And frankly, I'm not a big fan of putting your house or your car on that debt because it's risky. And I don't want to see you put your family in that sort of position. So we really help to kind of get people to understand, all right, what avenues can I go find these other kinds of programs? And maybe it's the competition route. Maybe it's the economic development partner route. There are programs that, people will lend into or invest into, but you got to show them a reason to say yes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So one last thing. How can my listeners help you, Don? What do you need from the community? What does tecBRIDGE need? What can we be doing better?
That's a great question. Let me think about that for a second. For your listeners, I would say, see what's going on at the chamber. go to an event that you haven't gone to before. Make the effort to get on a chamber committee to meet people so that you can learn more about what's going on in your own backyard. And oh, by the way, if you do that, you're going to find some people that are like you. Not everybody, but you're going to find some people like you and build your network out. I think the best thing that we can do in Northeast PA is talk to each other more, find out what everybody else is doing, because you'd be surprised that maybe this isn't a new venture that you start, but somebody else is starting and you have a skill that they could really use. And maybe that skill is just, I care, right? We don't always have to have the latest and greatest film editing capability, but I really want to try, or I'm really willing to learn. And so if it's your idea, there are people who will help you with your ideas to see how you can take it to wherever it needs to go. And there is training in the region for that too. The SBDCs are a great place to take your ideas, for example.
Yes, they are. Yep.
And so I'd say just get out and be willing to have a conversation with people like you or people like me, all of our friends at the chamber. I really like the idea of trying an event that you haven't been to before.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And go introduce yourself to somebody you don't know.
Yeah, you never know who you'll meet. You'll never know who you'll meet, which has been a way I've met a lot of people in this region. So if folks want to reach you at tecBRIDGE, Don, how do they go there and do that?
I think the easiest way is find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
That's kind of the go-to is easy, right? Don Webster, tecBRIDGE. It's TEC Bridge, tecBRIDGE. It's tecBRIDGE PA if you're really looking for it.
Yeah.
But,
All right.
I think that's the easiest.
All right. I will make sure that link is in the description. Thank you again today. My guest was Don Webster, the Executive Director of tecBRIDGE. Don, have a great day.
Hey, thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.